Selam. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد سيد الأولين والآخرين مدد يا رسولنا مدد يا سعادة أصحاب رسول مدد يا مشايخنا دستور ما شاء الله فازد أحسن شوفنا الحقائق مدد طريقتنا الصحبة والخير في الجميع بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم قضى نحبه ومنهم انتظر صدق الله العظيم. Allah Azze ve Celle buyuruyor, o insanlar ki Allah'a verdikleri sözü tuttular, ondan dönmediler.
Allah Almighty describes those believers who kept their promise, who kept the promise they gave to Allah Almighty and did not turn back from it.
Onları adam diye vasfediyor.
Allah Almighty describes them as men. Allah Almighty describes those who keep their promise they gave to Allah Almighty as men.
Adam demek yani kadın da o şeyde olsa o da adam mertebesine yükselmiş oluyor.
And this is regardless of that person, whether that person is a man or a woman. If Allah Almighty describes those who keep their promise towards Allah Almighty as having attained the rank of a man, and this applies to women as well. They too, when they keep their promise to Allah Almighty, rise to the rank of a man.
Kendini adam sayıp da sözünde durmayan o ne adamdır ne kadındır. Yani onu bilmek lazım yani.
And one who considers himself a man but does not stand by his word is neither a man nor a woman. This must be known.
Da kadın erkek ayrım değil de şey olarak Allah vasfediyor ki sözünde duranları şey yapıyor.
This is not about a distinction between men and women, but a description of equality. It is a praise that Allah Almighty makes, and Allah Almighty praises those who keep their word.
Ne söylüyor ki Allah yolunda olarak o yolda duran insanlar kıymetli insanlardır. Onlar kazanmıştır.
And Allah Almighty praises those who keep their promise. Allah Almighty praises those who stand firm on the path for the sake of Allah Almighty. And those who follow the path of Allah Almighty with firm steps are valuable people. They are the ones who are the true winners.
Onların sözünden dönmeyen insanlar makbul insanlardır Allah indinde.
The people who do not turn back from their word are accepted people in the sight of Allah Almighty.
Onlar ecelleri gelince o yol üstünde vefat ederler.
Those who keep their promise towards Allah Almighty are people who are firm in following the path of Allah Almighty, and even when their appointed time comes, they pass away while following the path of Allah Almighty.
Kaldıkları müddetçe de, yaşadıkları müddetçe de gene aynı şekilde o yol üzerine, verdikleri söz üzerine devam ederler.
And those who follow the path of Allah Almighty and those who are true to their word they gave to Allah Almighty, they remain on the way of Allah Almighty as long as they live, and they continue in the same way upon that path of Allah Almighty, and they continue in the same way upon the promise they gave.
Bu vasıf üzerine bizim Şeyh Baba'nın zamanında Müslüman olan bizim Allah rahmet eylesin dün vefat etti. Alman asıldı ama Müslümanlığı 40 küsur sene önce Şeyh Baba'nın huzurunda vardı.
And yesterday there was someone who passed away who fits this description of Allah Almighty. Yesterday a man passed away, who followed the way of Allah Almighty firmly, without any deviation and without going astray, and to continue to follow the path of Allah Almighty up till the very end. And he passed away yesterday. He was a man of German origin, and who became Muslim during the time of Maulana Sheikh Nazim. And that was around 40 years ago. And he passed away. May Allah Almighty have mercy on him.
Adam felsefe profesörüydü. Felsefe dediğin hani şek şüphe üzerine olan bir şeydir.
And he used to be a philosophy professor, and philosophy is something based on doubt and suspicion.
Onu yani Şeyh Baba'nın kerametiyle ve o da Allah'a şükür Müslüman olup.
Nevertheless, it was through a wonder, a miracle, a karama of Maulana Sheikh Nazim that even though he was a professor of philosophy, he became Muslim thanks to Allah Almighty.
40 küsur sene bu yol üzerine hem kendisi hem etrafındaki insanlara hizmet etti.
And then after becoming Muslim, he served on this path of Islam, serving people around him and following the path of Allah Almighty for around 40 years.
Hizmet verdi. Çoğu insan da hidayete erdi onun yüzünden.
And many people attained guidance to the right way through the means of him.
Müslüman olarak Müslüman olmayan, Müslümanlar da çok yoldan çıkmış insanlar olabiliyor.
And he brought people to the path of truth. And he brought people to the path of truth, whether they were Muslims or whether they were not Muslims. Because there are also many Muslims who went astray and who have deviated from the right way. And he was a means to bring people back to the right way.
Onları da bu hak yola koydu.
And he spent his life bringing people to the path of truth.
Ondan sonra Allah'ın sevgili kulu olarak bu dünyadan ayrıldı.
And he continued following this way and serving the way of Allah Almighty in this manner up until the very end, until he departed from this world as a beloved servant of Allah Almighty.
Mühim olan budur bu dünyada.
And this is exactly what is important in this world.
Ne için yaratıldık, ne yaptık?
This is what is important in this world, and this is how we should be leading our lives, to knowing why we were created.
Sen ne yarattın diye Allah sana söylüyor, sen daha sersem tavuk gibi soğup duruyorsun.
Allah Almighty tells you why we were created. Yet, you look at people in general, they wander around like a dizzy chicken, not understanding.
Anlamıyorsun. Bu anlayan insanlar bilirler ki hak bulunca hakka yapışacaksın.
But those people, like him, who understand, know that when you find the truth, you must cling to the truth.
O haktan öteki dünyaya gideceksin.
You must firmly and tight to the truth. You must cling to the truth until you leave this world, and you must leave this world in a state while holding firmly the truth.
Hakkın karşısına çıkacaksın Allah'ın izniyle.
And when you leave and pass away from this world, while holding tightly the truth, you must appear in front of Allah Almighty with the truth, inshallah.
Allah hepimize sabit kadem kılsın.
May Allah Almighty make us all be steadfast and make our steps to be firm in following the way of the truth.
Yoldan çoğu dökülen insanlar oluyor.
There are many people whose feet slip from the path and they fall away.
Arada biraz o sırada oradan oraya koşup bunu beğeniyorum, bunu beğenmiyorum derken bir bakıyor ki hiçbir şey yokken hiçbir şey bulmadan çıkıp gidiyor bu dünyadan.
There are many people, while running from here to there, in the meantime saying, I like this, I don't like that, and then they suddenly depart this world without having found anything.
Allah onlardan etmesin.
May Allah Almighty make us not to be among them.
Sabit kadem kılsın.
Instead, may Allah Almighty make our steps to be firm in following His path.
Mevla'yı bulana kadar, Mevla'nın orada da Peygamber Efendimiz meşayihlerimizi bulana kadar sabit kadem kılsın bizi hepimiz inşallah.
May Allah Almighty keep us all steadfast in following His way until we find our Lord Allah Almighty, until we meet our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, until we meet our sheikhs in the hereafter, inshallah.
Ve minallah tevfik. El Fatiha.